Welcome everyone to episode 144 of the podcast, which we're still searching for a name. I'm Nick.
We kind of teased the unveiling at the next one though, so.
Well, you do have to trust the plan. When you
true.
make a plan, you have to trust the plan.
That is a good point, yeah.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Jim.
And I'm Preston.
Welcome to the podcast, Preston.
Thanks.
Good to have you here. Make sure you speak into the microphone, okay?
Okay.
All right. Hey, over the weekend, we had the first college football game, week 0.
Yeah.
They call it, played in Ireland, which is kind of neat, Northwestern and Nebraska. And I love it when Nebraska loses tight games. I don't know, I do know why. In fact, I'll share. So it goes back to 1997 with Scott Frost as the quarterback of the Huskers, and they're undefeated, but they did cheat with the Missouri game. And the Michigan and Nebraska both ended up undefeated, and coming into the bowl game, Michigan was number 1 in both polls. Nebraska was number 2 in both polls, and after Nebraska won their bowl game, Scott Frost was really cheerleading and, demanding to be number 1. The coaches did make him number 1, which is crazy that you are number 1 coming in and then you win against a top 10 team and then get moved down. And the AP kept Michigan as number 1. So I love watching Nebraska lose, especially with Scott Frost as coach. And then secondly, Tennessee. I love watching Tennessee lose because the coach at the time, Phil, I can't remember. He's the AD now at Tennessee. But when he was the coach, when Charles Woodson won the Heisman over Peyton Manning, he voted Michigan number 3 in the coaches poll, which was enough to lower Michigan to number 2. And so you think, well, why would he put Michigan number 3 if there's only 2 undefeated teams? See what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Shady.
It was shady. Yeah, it was shady. So anyway, I like watching Nebraska lose. They're good at it. Tight games.
They are.
Tight games.
They've had a pretty good run of losing close games.
Yeah. So hey, what are we gonna talk about today? The whole lump sum pension situation that's happening right now. So we have several clients at Ford Motor who are a couple of years away from retirement, and they're looking at this lump sum situation. And let's just make up some numbers here. If you had a pension lump sum that today shows $1 million, and you're worried that in the I guess, let's see, today's about September 1st. So like in a month or two, they're going to publish the new figures,
Right.
And what could happen?
The talk is it's going to go down. The employees are fearing a 10 to 20% drop because interest rates have come up so far. That means they can push the value of the lump sum pension down.
So same thing as bonds. Interest rates up, bond prices down. Interest rates up, lump sum down. Does not affect the monthly pension.
Right.
But if you're really interested in the lump sum, this is something to really watch. Well, what is the emotional part?
I've heard
it's not just money.
Yeah,
right?
A lot of people say, well, if I lose 10% of my $1 million lump sum pension, it's like I'm working for free this year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you lose 10 to 20%, it's I'm working for free. Why am I going to work? Maybe I should retire so I don't lose all that money.
What if we have a $2 million lump sum and it's a 20% drop?
Right. It's a couple of years.
400,000.
Yeah. Could be a couple of years worth of work.
Yeah. So that's really powerful emotionally saying I have to work a whole year or more for free. Preston, do you work for free?
No, I do not.
I don't think anyone wants to work for free.
Right.
And not to change the subject, but people that are not in business for themselves, right? And they're like an engineer somewhere, right? They don't deal with this kind of like setting prices and stuff like this. People will say, well, you charge X for your fees, and I'm like, well, I don't work for free, right? Like, do you expect me to work for free? And it doesn't really come up much, but it made me think of that.
Yeah.
All right, so there's this powerful emotion, but there's really much more to it, right? and every case is different. And so this is not general advice for anyone, but there is more to it. Okay, and one of the biggest decisions in your life is retirement. When to retire, and how do we decide? There's 4 things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Preston, you know the 4?
Yeah. So first, you need to make sure that you've got enough money saved and that the financial plan is going to look good for the long term.
And then you trust the plan.
Yeah, and then you trust the plan, and then you think within yourself: have I accomplished everything that I wanted to accomplish while I was at work? You know, if there's still one project you want to see through, maybe you set retirement once that project's completed. And then you need to think of what are you going to do once you retire. You know, you can't retire to the couch because the quality of life just isn't there if you choose to do that. And then finally, is your spouse on board? You need to make sure you guys are on the same page, so that there isn't, you know, bickering or fights or anything because you are home all the time now.
So Preston, I don't know if our large audience is aware of your news, right? I mean, they crave this personal detail. So do you have anything that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I got engaged 2 months ago, so wedding is set for August 2023, so just
And-
about 11 months out.
And all the listeners are invited to the wedding, right?
Right, yeah. Might have to clear that with her first. But.
Yeah. Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
Okay, so besides, you know, these 4 things, right? Money, what have I accomplished? What am I going to do? Is my spouse on board? And this emotional part, like, what other things have we run across in a couple of our case studies?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, because it's not as black and white as it seems, right? Because
Exactly.
if you think, well, I'm gonna take a $200,000 cut on my lump sum, that's what I was gonna make. It's not that easy, right? Because I mean, there's that many more years of work. There's that many more years that we don't have to draw out of retirement accounts. There's that many more years that we can put money into the 401. There's that many, you know, another year that we get the match. It's another year that we can make a HSA contribution. It's another, right? We can just keep going on and on about all these things. That it's a bigger decision than just looking on paper. How much could I potentially lose on this pension?
I agree 100%. Bonuses, stock options, like you said, the 401k match, the earnings that the portfolio will have over that time. But what about really unique? Everyone, all those things apply to everyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
But thinking about an example that we worked on together, where there's big, like in these final years of earnings, right, where we're making the most in our career.
Mm-hmm.
Like we tell people, hey, make sure that, right, you get the mortgage paid off before retirement. Make sure that, you know, if there's that home improvement thing that you were going to work on, that's
Mm-hmm.
taken care of, right? Like getting things all cleaned up, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
right? Kids, right?
Yeah.
So what do we learn through this experience with a few of our clients?
Yeah, what I was just going to say is I think everybody is so different that every situation, you know, it has to be looked at in, you know, specific to that situation, right? Because if you still have kids in college, or you still have kids in, you know, going into college, or you still have some of these big expenses, the mortgage isn't paid off yet. The work that we put into to determining if taking the lump sum now or later is the right choice is going to look very different than somebody who has those things paid off, who no longer has kids in the house, and was probably, you know, working just because kept them busy, but, you know, maybe only had a year or 2 left, right? Those are going to look dramatically different when you put the work in.
Yeah, I agree completely. Also, these guys, right, they might be looking at the money question that, like Preston was outlining, and think, I am good, but I really was planning on working 2 or 3 more years. So maybe I can go do some consulting work.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I hang up my hat with the mothership and go work for a supplier or do something on the side to make less, right? But still have the plan work, right? I think that is something that can be considered. So people are kind of looking at this, looking at that, saying, well, I can take the full lump, right?
Mm-hmm.
No reduction, and maybe, you know, maybe take a buyout, a voluntary buyout. But I haven't seen. There's been rumors. I haven't seen that yet. We have seen the involuntary, where you're just gone, right?
Mhm.
And there's no planning you can do around that, except for making sure that you've made all these good decisions up until this point. But that consulting part, I think, can be powerful as well.
I think that's a really good point, and it's also what differentiates it working for one person and not another, but is your skill set, right? And if you have the ability to do that and to go out and take this retirement package, go out and work the next few years, accomplish what you want to accomplish, still make some money, you can come out ahead. We have that conversation with teacher clients as well who have these pensions and can retire at an early age. Let's turn on the pension, let's take the money, find something else to do, and we're getting ahead of where we were before. So it allows you to really make progress towards that retirement plan.
Yeah, maybe if you have a terrible boss, like we've seen that movie Horrible Bosses, I know how that is. I lived through that for a while. Okay, so if you have a horrible boss, maybe between those two things, you just can't take it anymore, between the pension and the horrible boss. But if you like what you do and you have a good boss and you're waking up every day and you're ready to roll, in other words, ready to go to work, the lump sum reduction is not the end of the world. Okay, That's the end result that we want to drive home here. That's like what we've been working up to this point. It's still a great benefit package, whether the lump sum is here or here. Okay, and by the way, the monthly option is unchanged, right? That's not affected, which is still a fine way to go. By the way, when you do the lump sum, right, you're transferring the risk from the pension fund, the insurance company, ultimately onto your own shoulders. So you should have a good investment plan and be able and willing to take some risk, right, to ultimately try to achieve more than the rate of return of the monthly pension. And if that all works out, then you have the whole beneficiary option, where with the monthly, right, it stops with the spouse at the second death. But if you do the lump and everything works as planned, then your kids would ultimately inherit that IRA. So anyway, I think we're wrapping it up here. The lump sum reduction is not the end of the world. Oh, and one more thought, right? Preston, we were talking about this. Like, what about 2 years from now or 3 years from now, right? The rates have gone up, but they're already talking about the Fed in 23 maybe lowering rates. It's speculation, okay? But then what would happen to the lump sum?
Right, it's the exact opposite. Today rates went up, so lump went down. But if the Fed lowers rates, lump goes right back up.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah. So then we want to have the long game in mind. It could just be all this anxiety for nothing.
Right.
So anyway, I think that's it. Any closing points?
I feel like you covered them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think when this is published, the CHIPS game will be over with. So let's get a stamp prediction real quick.
I think it's going to be a tough game, but I think we can make some magic. Last time we played them, we won on a Hail Mary as time expired. So
Who are they playing?
Oklahoma State.
And they're ranked.
They are ranked, yeah.
They were nearly in the CFP last year.
Yeah, they had a good run last year.
Yeah. Okay. So you're gonna predict?
I think it'll be a tight game. I think the Chips will pull it out.
All right. Take the money line. You heard it from Preston.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Don't forget to smash the like button and the subscribe button. Is it the bell?
Ring the bell.
Ring the bell.
Yeah.
Okay. Ring the bell, and then you'll get notified, right, Ashley? You get notified when Ashley uploads it. So don't want to miss anything, and we're gonna trust the plan on that. Okay. Thanks, guys.